Let's get chilly. Hello and welcome back to Let's Chill, the official, unofficial Minnesota Wind Chill and Minnesota Strike podcast. I'm Jeff.
I'm Jay.
And I'm Kane.
And we are here, the last weekend of professional ultimate frisbee for both the UFA and the PUL. Here we are. Our second season is coming to a close. The Minnesota Wind Chill for the second year in a row are going to championship weekend. How are we feeling tonight, you guys?
It's been a really good year. Exciting from start to finish. So much has happened. I don't even know what to point to be like, that was cool. There's just so much.
Yeah, I mean, this was not the road I thought. A loss to Pittsburgh?
Right.
Come on. No offense, Minnesota, but Kane predicted 12-0, and that was broken by a loss to. I mean, we're here. But
we are here. I will say it is definitely bittersweet being here at the end of the season. I felt this way last year too. I remember. I'm trying to pull up Zoom, and I'm like, because I'm also trying to pull up stats. Wow, sorry. Anyway, wow. I felt this way last year too. As our last season was our first full year of doing this podcast and talking about the wind chill, and now here we are again. Just a lot of different feelings. I will say it's a little less exciting this year because we're not going to championship weekend. I really wish we could be there with the team. It's not in Minneapolis or in Minnesota. We're not going to be on, in the stands. It's still super exciting, but definitely a different vibe. But I feel like this year it's a wide open door, and we're going to get into it. But yeah, here we are. I'm super excited for this weekend. I think any of the four teams here this weekend could theoretically win. And I don't think you'd be ridiculous saying any of them would be the winner, which I love. I love that. So that's what you want.
Yeah.
Well, Jay. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that this is a really exciting end to the season, both for us and for the UFA. We had to get a watch party going or something, maybe.
There is a watch party for the wind chill at Pocket Square on Friday. So way to plug that right off the bat.
Pocket Square.
Bang bang. Wow, they should really put that as their slogan.
Clip it.
Pocket Square if you're listening. All right,
You're
Jay,
welcome.
go ahead and share your screen. We got some Star Town trivia.
Give me 1 second. All right, here we are. Small Count Trivia with Jay. First question. The three of us, we all own cats. But total, how many cats do the three of us have? Do we own 3, 4, 5, or 16 cats?
Between three of us, we own 5 cats.
I was also going to say C5 cats.
That is correct. That is correct.
We
bonus points if you can name them all.
Call?
Oh yeah. Shout out to Tilly. She was downstairs and now she's probably upstairs.
Shout out to my cats Booger and Juniper. They'd like to hang out with me, but not right now.
Shout out to my cat Alaska, and I would shout out my cat Oscar, except he is deaf. Wouldn't hear it anyway.
Anyway.
All right, second question, moving on. More wind chill focused. What was the total point scored in 2024 for the Minnesota Wind Chill? Was it 245, 273, 281, or 198?
What a great question.
That is really good. And it's really hard for me to discern between them.
Wait, quick clarifying. Is this playoffs or is this just regular season?
This counts the playoffs game. This does count the game against Madison.
It's only one more game, but still.
I'm going to say, for some reason, 245 seems in my head, just the right quick back of the napkin math I just did. So
you know, they all seem too high. So I'm gonna do the classic, like every number seems too high, so I'm gonna do the lowest. I'm gonna say D, 198.
You're both wrong. It's
Wow.
B of 273, counting the Madison game. Not
Whoa.
counting the Madison game, it would have been 250. Um, but yeah, counting the Madison game, it's 273, which averages out between 13 games to a total of an average of 21 points per game.
Wow.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
Really nice, actually.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's like an
Pretty
even
good.
21
How
too.
does
That's
that
really
how
nice.
does that stack up to like the other people in championship? Do you have that off the
Ooh,
cuff
that'd be a
here?
good stat.
I don't, but I know the UFA actually like
Yeah,
posted
I think you
today.
can. I think you can filter that too.
That'd be
Yeah,
interesting
so
just to
and you
see.
can go and like see the head to head. They always post their head to
Yeah,
heads. Awesome content by the UFA.
yeah.
Um, Finally, who caught the first goal for the Minnesota wind chill this year? Was it Bevon? Was it Mattis? Was it Tristan Vandy Mortel? Or was it Greg Cousins?
I
It
think
was
we were like
Mattis?
together when we talked about this. I think we predicted this one actually. Kane, you said Mattis.
I think it was Mattis, wasn't it?
I'm gonna I'm gonna say C, Tristan Van Mortel.
Jeff is right. It was Tristan Vandy
Let's
Mortel.
go, baby.
Bonus points. Was it on offense or defense? And the person who threw it was also on this list.
It was a break point and it was thrown by Greg Cousins.
Nah, it was offense thrown by Bevon.
Jeff is 100% correct on that, by the way. It
I'm
it
that
would
guy.
have been a Pittsburgh break. Minnesota got the disc back and scored against Pittsburgh.
I low key, like, I'm not even joking. I think I remember that point because, like, I think we were together or like you guys were on your way because we were having a watch party that day. And I like low key remember that because we were like kind of betting on who was doing it. And like, I'll say some of that was definitely luck just now, but Tristan Van Ortel was not luck. I remembered that one, but
I
nice.
threw
Okay.
I threw that one on there because Tristan Vandy Mortel did start as an offensive player, even though he
Yeah.
has been primarily defense since like that midpoint of the season. So I figured that that'd be a little interesting one for us as well.
It surprised me to hear because I just like picture him as offense. I think because of last season, especially, I just see him as an offensive player. Huh. Okay. Well, let's before we get to championship weekend, let's just really quick talk about the division championship, Central Division game. We don't have to sit on it too long. It wasn't the craziest game, but like we definitely need to sit on it a little bit. Uh, the wind chill just annihilated the Madison Radicals, 23-14. And like people, a couple people who have also covered this game has said, like, yeah, they made a decent comeback in the third. It felt like it could be anyone's game. I think they narrowed their like 8 point deficit to 4 points or something at one point. They went on like a 4 point run, and I remember that, and it was really freaky. But we were still up by like four, and that was really it. After the halfway point of the third quarter into the fourth quarter, the wind chill just ran away with it, and like that was the game. And it just was really pretty anticlimactic, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being in the stands and like the Madison fans started getting really loud. Like on that
Yeah.
third and fourth point, they were super loud. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this might be
Yeah.
doomed. And I look up at the scoreboard and it's like 16-12. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
it's still like this is like still blowout territory. Like that feels bad.
Yeah, I think because the first few quarters, because going into half, wasn't it like still within two going into half? Or was
Um,
it,
Minnesota was up 9-5, I believe, at half.
oh my gosh, we were already a solid lead at that point. Okay. I think it was kind of hard to like get fully into it with the crowd in a bit because we didn't really have the pressure on us as much. And obviously that's not like a bad thing because it felt like the wind chill didn't need the energy momentum shift. They didn't need to rely on a big swing. They were
Right.
playing consistent throughout the whole game. And so it's like this is the only blowout of all of the championship games. And I think that
Mhm.
says something.
I mean, it was really kind of disappointing. Like, I think, especially with Madison, like, I think we were all really, not that we wanted to be close and, like Jay would say, like, butt clenching close, but like, for it to be a 9 point game, and Madison, like we previewed, is usually one of the toughest opponents against Minnesota, and especially in Minnesota. Like again, the fans travel well. The like Radicals, Madison breeze well. Madison Radicals usually like play well on the road, especially in Seafoam Stadium. So we all expected like a 2 or 3 point game, and like, as we predicted on our own group chat, it was like I think the biggest point differential is probably 3 points. Otherwise, they're all pretty tight predictions. And so yeah, like it kind of makes me wonder a couple things. First of all, it makes me wonder, were the Madison Radicals bad? Were the Winchell just playing really well? Do the Madison Radicals even deserve to be there? Like I kind of hate to put that question out there. I don't know if that's fair to the Radicals, but people will ask that question. But yeah, but like Kane said, how no other division championship game was even close to that big of a point difference. And so how is that going to look coming into championship weekend? Like kind of the question of like, did the wind chill get off easy, and now are they going to have to really work even harder now that they didn't like play a tight game? Or are they rested and are ready to play a tight game now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's obviously an impossible question to really answer, but it's out there.
Okay. I have a bit of an answer to this. I think Minnesota was playing under their strength the entire year. I
Mm.
as much as I love every player on Minnesota, I think Sam Berglund and Tanner Barkis and Bert Bergmeyer add so much to the team. And like we call them the icebergs. Like they have an electric connection. Like having both of them on the field at the same time in a game, especially a high stakes game, like it looked good. And I wrote
Mhm.
this in my article. Minnesota like stepped up. After that first quarter, it was 3-3. The second quarter, they didn't make very many mistakes. Like they outscored Madison six, I think it was 6-2 in the second quarter. I mean, I can literally just look real quick, but yeah. So I do think that part of it is, Madison was playing the way Madison does, and Minnesota was like, oh wait, we're better than this. We can play better
Mhm.
than this. We can play cleaner than this. We are a better team. And then they just proved it on the field.
It's interesting, like who you pointed out. You said the iceberg, Sam Berglund and Bert Bergmeyer. Uh, I gotta find so Sam Berglund played 14 points, which is decent. Bergmeyer against Madison played 13 points, decent. Tanner Barkis did not play. And in fact, I just want to point out, and I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, he's only played 7 games this year with the wind chill. Um, and the last game he played was on 6/22 versus Madison. So he hasn't played since June. And I haven't had any updates. I don't know if he's been injured. He's been playing with Dragon Thrust. I guess I don't know if he's actually been on the field with Dragon Thrust, but he's been active with the team. So I don't know if he just hasn't really earned that roster spot, or if he has been feeling sick or injured or what. We can speculate so much, but um yeah, no, I mean, like, so the three players you mentioned, Jay, I do agree with you, but it's just I Sam Berglund has also been out most of the season, as we know. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because we do have a our mailbag question about this, but quick preview. We are expected to have a full strength roster minus Ian McCoskey for the weekend. So again, we can get into that. We'll see what full strength means, according to Ben Feldman. We'll see if Tanner Barkis is full strength or not. And maybe I'll just leave it at that for now.
Yeah, I do want to say I did misspeak. I meant to say Bert Bergmeyer, not Tanner Barkis. A lot of the
Ah,
times those
yeah,
two get mixed up in my head.
yeah.
Both,
But
awesome
all of
defensive
those
players.
players, yeah, like they're all electric and they're all making great plays. And like I've missed Barkis on the field. It's like making these plays and making a name. So
What if they benched Berglund for the whole season, but had him play and be fit and active? But that way the enemy teams can't plan for him, so he's like the secret weapon going into championship weekend.
like in Little League when you used to like as you were like the next pitcher in, like, oh, new pitcher, you like throw meatballs just down the middle as you're warming up, just like, oh, this guy's slow, and then you just start spinning as the batter gets in the box, like, Just,
Hit him in the
yeah.
head. No.
You know,
Yeah.
you walk 3 guys and then your dad's disappointed you in the car ride home, and
What? Where in the world?
This didn't happen to you? Oh no, Jay, you never pitched. I used to pitch. Oh, that was stressful.
it was
Why I
terrible.
switched. That's why I switched to catching.
Yep. Yep.
All you
Different
gotta do is sit
positions.
there and get hit by the ball.
And then your dad's still disappointed in you. So there you
Double bruises.
I feel like some of this stuff should be coming out in therapy and not on a
it
podcast.
might be. Diana, if you're listening to this.
Love to get you on the pod.
All right, all right. Shall we transition to championship weekend? Are we anything else about the Madison Radicals game? Like I said, I don't think we had too much to say, but anything else?
Um, a little bit. I think the Players' Choice Awards came out,
Yep.
and I think Gabe Vordick was snubbed for Rookie of the Year. I mean, to be fair,
So
I did look at the other players. They were pretty impressive.
yeah,
Gabe Vordick was snubbed.
he was number 3. He was tied for third. And that's also Players' Choice Award. So we'll see how, the actual voters vote. I don't think they look at the central yeah, again, I don't want to play the martyr right now, but I don't think they look at the central division too much. I don't think they're going to choose Gabe Vordick, but I did see that and I do agree with you, Jay. Gabe Vordick should be up there. Um okay. Let's get into championship weekend. Like again, this is the biggest weekend of the year. This is why we do our coverage. This is why the wind chill play ultimate frisbee for the second year in a row now. They are going to championship weekend. This year it's at Salt Lake City. Um, and I don't know. I was debating just now whether I want to recap any of the other division championship games. Maybe we could do that in league news or something. But the four, I'll say, because who they're going to play. The 4 teams who are making it to championship weekend. And again, Noah Hansen, shout out to Noah Hansen, predicted all 4 of these on April 4th when we visited them at practice, which is awesome. Go check that out on our Instagram and Twitter. Seattle Cascades, Carolina Flyers, DC Breeze, and of course the Minnesota Wind Chill are all competing for the UFA championship. Also, a fun fact about these 4 teams. We've mentioned earlier, I think Jay mentioned earlier in the season that we each have a favorite team out of the Central Division that we kind of follow along and watch. All of these teams are our favorite teams. So Kane is a DC Breeze fan, Jay is a Carolina Flyers guy, and my out of division favorite team are the Seattle Cascades. So it's kind of like whoever wins, we're all going to be one of us will be pretty happy. Obviously, I think we all want the Wind Chill to win first and foremost, but that's pretty sweet to see all 4 teams make it.
Also, I love how like the story behind all of us have our favorite team. Like, I don't know why DC like why Kane's on the DC Breeze hype train.
Because they have the
Um,
best jerseys. Go check my video.
I'm on that Flyers hype train because of the 2021 championship. I
Mhm.
think it was that season, like the Flyers had like a wild stat where it was they had the most players with the highest average score or something like that. Like their average score per player was higher than the next team's average.
Right.
You know,
Wow.
no one person was getting 50 goals or something like that. It was I
Right.
don't remember exactly what the stat was.
That's
Um,
crazy.
and then they ended up winning it, and I said that that was going to be important, and it was. Um, and I think Jeff just kind of picked Seattle.
I picked Seattle because of the city. We traveled to Seattle in 2022 for a vacation. Absolutely fell in love with the city. If I could live there, if the cost of living wasn't so high, and my family wasn't in Minnesota, Seattle is where I'd be. So any Seattle team, like Seattle Mariners, I don't really care for, but like, yeah, when I hear them, my brain kind of picks up on it. Seattle Cascades, absolutely. Like, let's freaking go, Seattle. I love Seattle. If you haven't ever been out there, highly recommend that trip.
Okay, Jeff likes Seattle. You
I know
got
I'm overhyping it. I'm overhyping it. I know
I
everyone's
love
gonna be disappointed
Seattle.
when they go, but oh man, I couldn't even sleep in Seattle, man. I just
Wait, Sleepless in Seattle?
Get
Is that
out of
that?
here.
it's biography.
Okay,
All right.
let's talk about championship weekend because as cool as Seattle is, we are going up against DC and we have the first game, right? We're the first
Yeah.
slot. So
Yeah.
we will know immediately. There's no like first game build up. You just
Right.
heartbreak or the overjoyed right away.
Yeah. It's fun because it's the DC Breeze. This is the first ever matchup against these teams, which I think even that, like last year too with the shred, it's just like you can prepare for this team, but this really is like the raw, the pure, like this is how we're attacking each other. Let's see what happens, which I love. I think Seattle Cascades and Carolina Flyers too. I think that's the first matchup. So that game's going to be exciting too. Just like let's just see who's the better team in this one go ahead. No history. Let's just do it.
It really is like who in this game plays the better frisbee. And it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean that this is the better team, but it does mean that they are the champ. I had some really reflective thoughts. Like the champion doesn't necessarily have to be like the statistically best in any categories. Like New York, I think, has been a really bad example the last few years. They've been the champions, but they've also been the best. But the champion just
Right.
has to be the person who comes out on top, you know?
What's
However that gets done.
That's often the saying to a second place. The second best team is rarely the team who loses to the first best team.
Look at
It's
DC the
like,
last few years.
yeah,
I mean, they've
yeah,
been the second best team for
exactly. They just lose in the quarterfinals, so they don't get a chance to play in the finals against the first best team. Um, yeah, no, exactly, and that's I think both good and bad how championship weekend set up. Like you, it gives you an opportunity. Like you don't have to be the best team. And we said it in the preview. Any team can win this weekend, and if you put money on any team, like I believe you. Like, I could see the Cascades winning. I could see the Wind Chill, the Flyers, or the Breeze taking it all because of that one game format where you don't have to play a best of seven and really see who's the better team. It's like who's going to play the better game, and I love that. But it also sucks too because it's right. Like yeah, the Wind Chill are way better than the Cascades or whatever. Whatever. But the Cascades had one good game or two Wind Chill players got injured and so they couldn't come back and it doesn't tell you the whole story, but gives everyone an opportunity.
all about the spectacle, you know?
That's
It's
right.
for our
That's right.
entertainment, man. These guys are professional frisbee players. If they wanna have a consistent matchup, they'll go to club. They come to play the UFA so they can have some really fun, exciting games. And part of that is matching up the rosters. I was trying to transition smoothly into players to watch. That didn't
Kane and
work.
his Kane's segues are immaculate. Well,
Usually, that one
they
wasn't.
exist, I should say.
There
All
you
right.
go.
All right.
Kane's
Who are you
segues.
guys paying attention to this game?
Kane, why don't you kick that off? Why don't you take this one?
Yeah,
So
for some
so
reason
we're
I was
we're doing
expecting
a
that we were gonna reverse it. Do keys to the game first.
we could
But
I don't I'm
because
good
my
either way.
players coincide with my keys to the game.
Mine does as well, actually.
So let's talk about our keys to the game.
Hey,
Previewing this DC Minnesota matchup. I can get into that first.
yeah.
All right. So I think overall in the season, one thing that Minnesota has done better than seasons past is put together a more consistent and a higher producing offense. I think that's something we've touched on a lot in the podcast, but with their higher red zone percentage, um, somewhat better hug percentage, and just like adaptability on offense.
Mhm.
And I think that really what it comes down to, especially when you get to championship games, is keeping it that consistency on offense, keeping it clean. If as Jay loves to point out, offense wins games. If we don't give DC a chance to get a break, then
Mhm.
it's really hard for them to catch up to us if we get points ahead. So I think the main key to the game for me is just playing clean and consistent offense for all four quarters and not giving them many opportunities.
So my key to the game is pretty much the exact same, but the opposite. Uh my key to the game it's that, but not that. Um, mine is handle the handlers. Um, and by that I mean, of course, the Breeze handlers. So the DC Breeze have the highest completion percentage in the league at 95.95%. And they have the second lowest huck attempts. They don't even try. Like, I don't even look at their huck completion because they don't even try to huck it. They only have 67 hucks. The only team with lower hucks, fewer hucks than them are the Alley Cats. Meaning, and I think we kind of knew this. I think we said it on the pod before, but the DC Breeze play small ball. their handler set is where they thrive. Basically, what Kane was just saying, how the Windchill's offense needs to be clean and consistent and not give break opportunities. The DC Breeze are already doing that. And so the Windchill need to focus on the handlers. Exactly the opposite of what we talked about with the Madison Radicals. How we like, let Kai Marcus just air it out. Focus on the cutters, right? Get everyone downfield. Let Kai Marcus just launch it. We didn't care about the handler set for the Radicals. This is opposite. Forget about the cutters. They don't really focus downfield that much. They don't look past 40 yards. Focus on the handlers. Handle the handlers. Eliminate the short game, and you'll be set.
Yeah, I think that's actually really reminiscent of Salt Lake last year. One of the things I brought up against Salt Lake was that Jordan Kerr, one of their key handlers, didn't really look deep all that frequently. So I think that's Minnesota's defense is going to be well adapted to doing that. Speaking of people on Minnesota's defense, my key to the game is the old guys. Specifically, I say the old guys because
oh boy, who's he gonna name?
I mean, it could be any of them. Devon, Mattis, Jordan Taylor, Colin Berry. These guys, they're ancient. They've been playing in the league for more than 4 years. What do you mean?
Paula Mattis is gonna send us a DM later tonight or whenever this releases.
Yo, shout out Paula Mattis. We #1 fan, honestly.
She's our #1 fan. I hope we're her #2 fan because obviously Brandon, but
I think Keeley probably ranks pretty high up there as well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, I do think that the veterans, maybe a more polite way of phrasing that,
Sure.
are really going to come out in this game. Earlier this year, Colin Berry and Jordan Taylor both had an excellent game where they should have been co-player of the games.
Yep.
Jordan Taylor got it, but Colin Berry lives up there.
Yeah.
Brandon Mattis has been looking like seriously like he used to. Like he always used to. He is laying out for blocks like crazy. He is on every point like tighter than last year and years prior. Not to say that he's like a bad player, but he looks sharper than he has in the past.
Yeah.
And I think that because they know they can make it a championship weekend, getting there wasn't the hard part. Now it's winning it. And I think it's the players who have wanted to win it for so long that are really going to be impacting the most.
Yeah. Brandon Mattis actually on his Instagram story today, this is Monday, so it'll be too late by the time everyone sees it, but he posted something about how he always has been laying out or doing the most for these points that don't count. There's a highlight over the weekend when he was playing with Sub-Zero that he like had this huge crazy layout grab and he was like just out of bounds, but it was like this great highlight play. And he's like, of course, all these high effort plays aren't even counting for points. But and of course, then he had that one bookends play in the first game against Pittsburgh that didn't count because Ben Feldman called the timeout, and so he's like not getting a break. But right, like point being, he's 110% still laying out, making these crazy plays, and sometimes they're not paying off, but most of the time I think they are, and I think they will this weekend.
And that really segues directly into my players to watch. Mattis is my player to watch of the Minnesota Wind Chill.
Yeah.
He's said it. People around him have said it. We've been seeing it. This year, he's winning. Like he is giving everything this year.
Yeah.
Truly playing at another level. Like you said, the like bookend plays, laying out for blocks on club teams as well. He looks like he is ready to win championship weekend like I've never seen it before. And I think that he is going to make a statement against the DC Breeze.
Heck yeah. And then who's your player? So we're doing players to watch just for the audience. We're doing one player to watch for the Wind Chill and one player to watch for the Breeze as well. Let's just do both at once. Go ahead, Jay. Who's your player to watch for the Breeze?
I think my player to watch for the Breeze is sort of the Breeze's version of Brandon Mattis with Rowan McDonald.
Okay.
He's been playing for them for 9 years. He is an incredible player, an incredible hybrid player. And he even says like this year, he's like the young guys are stepping up and I don't have to do as much. And he's still doing the most. He is guiding the field. He is like calling shots. He is pointing. If you watch the DC Breeze play, if you were watching Rowan either on the sideline or on the field, he is 100% engaged at all points. Like has so much field vision. It is no doubt that the DC Breeze have the highest completion percentage because of him. And of course,
Right.
other players on the team are also really good, but like he really does have a awareness that most other players do not have.
Yep. He's I mean, I don't know if he's officially the captain. I would assume he's the captain. But he's the captain of the field. He definitely captains the team. He's the quarterback in the leadership sense. He's totally yeah. He's leading that team to victory. Kane, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, a real quick response to Jay's. I think Mattis absolutely has been a player that we've been following the whole season, and I expect him to step up. And it would be interesting to see if we get a Mattis Rowan matchup. That'd be fun, I think.
Oh, that'd be satisfying.
Just see how these old guys' knees handle it. So I got two players to watch as well. Uh, on Minnesota's side, to kind of coincide with my key point of consistent offense, was Jordan Taylor. I decided to go with him, but Jay, you alluded to the other half of that I was going to talk about with Colin Berry. Um, I think Jordan Taylor specifically has been a really important and key part to how the Minnesota offense is able to get out of and get into different situations. He's a really good bailout cut. His undercut is nasty. His defender's like 20 miles away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's a really good handler as well. I don't have it pulled up anymore, but he has more assists than I was expecting. So overall, he's just been a really good key part to Minnesota's offense, and I expect to see him step up even more championship weekend. And on the other side, I have DC's AJ Merriman, who
Oh
is
man.
he's a defensive nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think in the same way that Minnesota has like Dylan DeClerc and like Paul Kranick, like really big playmakers on defense that can get some energy put into like the next offensive line that goes out there. I think AJ Merriman does a really good job for that on DC. He gets a lot of blocks. He converts a lot of blocks. Like he's probably one of the highest conversion like individuals in the league just because of his ability to get the block and either get it off in a throw or make the cut himself. So
Right.
I think again a clean offense, not letting players like AJ Merriman get those opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like looking up and down the Breeze's roster is just scary. It's like there's no break. It feels like everyone's a threat and 1 through 20, you got a tough roster. And then yeah, Kane, real quick to your JT player to watch. I feel like a couple years ago when Rocco Linehan was still on the team, I had acknowledged Rocco as a player who would probably almost never win any sort of MVP award, would rarely make an honor roll kind of, and I think he has made honor roll, but he's just a consistent player, someone who you can always count on. Like I said, like the bailout cut, where like that's not a flashy play. You're only getting maybe 5, 10 yards out of it. Like it's not anything huge, but it saves a point more often than not. You're up 5, 6, seconds in your stall count. You're moving the disc, and then right then you can transition to the handler and then put it deeper, maybe even into the end zone. Like so, his stats don't necessarily rack up as much as you want them to, but right, his consistency is key for the win chill. Same with Rocco Linehan, um, prior. I mean, even still as he's playing with the Glory, but with when he was with the wind chill too. You need those good transition players. Okay, my player to watch. I'm gonna start with the DC Breeze, talking about players who've been with the wind chill before. I'm gonna say Andrew Roy, A Roy. First of all, player to watch just because he did play with the wind chill. He and Cole Jurek, can't forget Cole Jurek. Super cool to see them. Go
Can
ahead.
we shout out Andrew Roy? You want to get on the podcast sometime? We would love to
Heck yeah,
have
man.
you and Cole Jurek.
Heck yeah. Actually, my good friend Tom Cook, shout out to Tom Cook from high school. He, I believe, was a roommate of Cole Jurek in college. So like weird connection there. I'm pretty good friends with Tom Cook, and he's like, "Wait, you know Cole Jurek?" I'm like, I don't really know him, but like I watch him play frisbee. Uh, but my player to watch is Aroy, mostly because again because he's coming back. Love to see that reunion. Love to see Aroy. We loved Aroy when he was with the Wood Chill, but also because he perfectly exemplifies the Breezes offensive system. Those short passes, real aggressive with the handlers. A-Ray too, just like Jay, you were talking about with Rowan, like he directs traffic so well. Like he is he is a quarterback in all sense of the words, where he's like, I need this cutter to go there so this space opens up. And the way he talks about the game, the way he knows the game and his field vision is leagues above some of the best handlers in the league. Like I think Aroy, he's not underrated, but he is still somehow one of the most underrated handlers in the league. And so I'm really curious to see his role championship weekend. I'm curious to see who's going to match up against him. And again, love to see that reunion. Like, I want to see him succeed, but I really don't want to see him succeed against the wind chill. So we'll see what happens. On the flip side of that, oh, Jay, do you want to say something with that?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, I think your point about Aroy being underrated, like it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Like
Mm-hmm.
when he played for Minnesota, Minnesota wasn't the greatest team. They were not even the best in the Central.
Mm-hmm.
At a time when the Central was probably arguably worse than what it is now. Um, and now he moved to the DC Breeze where he's playing ridiculously well, but he's
Mm-hmm.
on a team with Rowan McDonald. Like
Right.
you have like the best handler in the league.
Right.
How do you compete, you know?
Yeah. He's just so good no matter where he plays, and he's making an impact. And yeah. So on the flip side of that, though, my wind chill player to watch, I'm gonna say is Paul Krennic. Um, and I'm gonna try to keep this as positive as possible. I want to challenge PK to be better than he was with Alex Atkins, because PK was matched up with Alex Atkins of the Colorado Summit for most of that game when the Summit traveled to Minnesota. Real quick to read off some of these quick stats. Atkins finished that game with a 96.05 completion percentage. He had 642 throwing yards and he had 73 completions, which is really good. Alex Atkins was the player of the game by far for the Colorado Summit. And so again, seeing PK on him, it's like we have to slow that down. We have to get all those numbers way down. And in a game where handler defense is going to be absolutely key, I want to see Paul Krennic step up. I know he can. I have no doubt in my mind. It's going to be a fun challenge, and I think PK is that guy. Like, we know PK is that guy. We know he's been on defense a lot. He's matched up with the best with Alex Atkins. Like, Alex Atkins is one of the best. So I'm curious to see who he's going to be matched up against, and I want to watch. I want to watch his approach. I want to see how he stops them. I think he can do it, and I think the Witch will need him to do that. So, um, okay. So I think our next segment is league news slash mailbag. But before we jump onto that, just real quick, how can we extrapolate? How do we want to expand this for the championship game if the Wind Chill make it? Because we've really talked about the DC Breeze game, which is obviously the more important game right now, because if they lose that, they're done. Um, but they could very well be playing either the Carolina Flyers or the Seattle Cascades on Saturday night. Do we say most of these these keys to the game and players to watch are the same? Anything else against the Flyers or the Cascades? I mean, it's kind of hard to predict, but
You know,
Honestly, I think that my key to the game still plays for just a championship weekend setting. So no
yep,
matter who they match up against, I think that the consistent offense will be key for championship weekend.
yeah,
I was gonna say I think the only thing that would really change against, you know, Seattle or the Flyers is to go on the attack more on defense. You know, I think against
yeah,
um I think against DC you need to like I wrote in my article, you need to be changing up the different defense. But I think against either Seattle or Carolina, find what works, drill them. Drill
right,
them with that. Don't change it up too much. Don't get in your own heads about it.
right.
Just find what works and knock them down with that.
I will say real quick, I don't know much about the Flyers, but I when I was watching the Cascades game, their division championship game against the Shred, they did a great job. I will say it felt like, and I didn't look at the stats, it felt like they turned it over a lot on offense, but they also seemed to stay with it and get the disc back. They didn't give up a lot of breaks. So if the Winchell play the Cascades, and again, this applies for anyone, but like capitalize on breaks when you get them, because these teams are going to be hungry. Their offensive defense will still be working hard. You cannot let up on a break point. This goes for the Breeze. This goes for the Cascades. This goes for the Flyers. Every point, every turn is going to matter. And I'm also, again, just real quick, really curious about endurance. We know that last year, toward the end of the shred game, like how much the wind chill were cramping up. Every player was on the sideline getting their massage, their calves massaged and their quads massaged, and everyone was so sore at the end of that game. And they said, like anecdotally, after the game and the next day, they're like they've never played that hard before in their life, and they lost. And again, like they could have definitely won that game. It could have gone either way, but they did lose, and they played every ounce that they had. So endurance for the second game is going to be crucial. But again, you can't like save it for the first game and be like, oh yeah, we got time tomorrow. Like you had to put it all out there on the field for the first game, but you need to physically prepare for the second game as well. So, okay, do we want to do any league news? I mean, we kind of covered who's going to be at the game at championship weekend. Anything else that you guys want to talk about the division championship games? Jay might have something.
The backcourt rule and a shot clock are stupid.
We are
That
getting
is
into that for mailbag.
okay.
We're in
Have
fact,
thoughts on that.
we're gonna do a mailbag section, and then we're gonna actually, because there's a rule talk. You know what? Let's do it. Let's just get into rules right now. We'll do rule talk and then mailbag. But again, this is part of mailbag as well. So, I'm not gonna share my screen. One of the questions I asked in mailbag this week was, if you could implement one rule change in 2025, what would it be? Actually, you know what? I will share my screen because I think this will be nice for us to all see it. Is it control or no,
Control.
it's not. Not this again. Okay, here we go. How's that? Is that better? Or
Much.
do you not do it? Okay. So if you could implement one rule change in 2025, what would it be? So the options were backcourt violation. So the disc can't go past half field once it crosses over. Think about in basketball, like the over and back rule. That's kind of what that is. Lower stall count, maybe down to 5 or 6 seconds instead of the 7 seconds that it is. A shot clock. So that means like you need to make an attempt toward the end zone to score within 60 to 120 seconds, whatever it might be. 6 versus 6, just take another player off of each team. And then the other option was other. So real quick, we'll get our opinions on here, but the answers were 50% of people. 2 people said they want a lower stall count, 5 to 6 seconds. One person said they wanted a backcourt violation, and one person said that other. They don't think any of these changes will improve the game. Now, real quick, a couple of people added in the additional comments, questions, and takes. One person said the rule change could be like the disc pull that's considered in. If it lands in the end zone, if it lands in and rolls out, get rid of the backup disc, and you have to get the disc that was thrown. So basically, can run the clock. You have to go and chase down the disc if it rolls. Let's defense set up a little bit, pretty much. The other person said Callahan should be worth 2 points. Could also be a fun experiment to do a 5x5 box in the back of the corner of the east end zone for like a 2-point box as well. Thoughts on these, and then we can expand from there.
Jay, I feel like you have a more put together opinion. I just have like, nah.
Yeah.
Okay. First, I think the 2-point Callahan and the back of the end zone are really fun things, but also not like strategically good things to implement. Because I mean, in my opinion, that's just going to lead to, oh, we're in the back of our end zone and we might give up a Callahan. I'm just going to huck it. It doesn't matter if my team catches it because the best they can do now is get 1 point versus 2. So it's just leading to more turnovers. That it just which could be fun, but that's very football-y in my opinion.
I think the Callahan, like I don't love the 2-point box, but I think the Callahan would be cool because it's so rare. It's not like you're gonna be trying for it. You know what I mean? Like not necessarily like setting up a Callahan. Like you're always setting up a Callahan. I don't think it'll really change strategically. But then we could also, and maybe Jay, you don't like this, but we could also then lean into the football aspect and say Callahan is 2 points and you get possession. I don't know.
I could
That's
see
what
one
a
point and get
safety.
possession.
Sure. Yeah. little
I
something
could see
different.
something like that.
I
But
think
the
personally, sorry, no, go ahead.
the idea of like Callahan being worth more points than just a regular score just incentivizes teams to punt. And
Uh, I disagree.
if I
'Cause
think I'm gonna get Callahan, I'm punting.
But
If
a
I can't get
turnover
out,
isn't worth a punt. A turnover is not worth it because you can come back from 2 points still.
but you could come back from the 1 point that you get on a turnover.
Right,
That's
but
the
like
difference.
uh,
It is
I disagree.
objectively more worth it to punt.
Yes, yes, but I don't think that's how it would happen because again, I think the rarity of Callahan's discourages punting. I think Callahan's, although they are like statistically increasing, I don't think they're increasing enough to the point where like that's such a big threat. Again, it's only 2 points. It's not like it's 10 points. Like it's just a little edge. It's just a little something.
I feel like my issue with that is that we don't need a little something. We don't need a little edge. Because you're right, they're not getting Callahan's. That doesn't solve the issue of what Carolina did to end their game out. A Callahan being 2 points wouldn't have changed that last, 2.5 minutes of the game. And I'm
It
not
was
saying
like it was closer to 4 minutes, 5 minutes, which is almost more concerning.
right. And so it's like I think that's it. That definitely makes it interesting. That makes Callahan's more fun, but I don't think that like solves the problem of OP offenses. I think that makes it like an extra little quirk if you get a Callahan. I'm not saying like we shouldn't have that,
Yeah.
but I feel like on top of that, we need to implement more stuff that like limits the offense, not just like
Can
makes
I
it.
also, yeah. So here's another point to this whole conversation, this whole rules talk that I don't know if anyone has brought up, and maybe people have. So like what they did, and I know like Adam Ruffner, I guess, tweeted this. What the Flyers did was still very impressive. Like, yes, we can limit it to, oh, it was just keep away for 4 minutes. And yes, it was. And yes, it was boring. I agree it was boring. But going 53 for 53 for 4 minutes in the UFA in a division championship game is not easy to do.
Absolutely. I
Like,
mean,
that's impressive. That's impressive. They
I'm
deserve to
not
win after that.
yeah. I'm not somebody who watches soccer a lot,
Right.
but and because there's not a whole lot of scoring, like that's why I
Right.
don't. This was a really smart soccer move. Like you watch games
Yeah.
where the team up by 1 or 2, and they play keep away for the last 5 minutes because you can do that. That is a strategy. And so yeah, credit to Carolina for taking advantage of that and for being the type of team that could do that. So I'm not trying to like
And like,
dog on them for doing
and the thing is, and this is also a point of this rule talk that everyone's having across the league is like, are we doing it just because we're bitter about 4 minutes? Because theoretically, if we implemented a shot clock or if we implemented a backcourt violation, like this still could have happened. Because again, we'd have to define what a shot clock is. Because if it's an attempt toward the end zone, but you're a yard short of the end zone, but you still catch your offensive pass, like you could still continue those passes, right? You just reset the clock. And if there's a backcourt violation, like it gets a little tighter in the field, but you can still pass for 4 minutes. Again, it gets tougher, it gets more impressive, but like, right, like again, what they did is impressive. What they did is not, it is boring. I agree it's boring, but it's like, what are we trying to solve with this rule? And I agree that we need a rule change. I'm not disagreeing. I agree on this premise. I'm just throwing it out there.
Right.
I disagree
like
on this premise.
I think it feels really wrong to like look at this one like example and be like, this is the issue with offenses across the league. And we
Now,
need to make it so that this one specific instance can't happen. And I'll say it because I'm so far on this boat. The issue isn't with the issue is that people travel like they are a billion trains. I don't even have like an analogy or a joke to make. People travel so much in the UFA.
Yeah.
And okay, I know we talk about this a lot. I have a whole point here. The issue with what happens is that it's not that you can't cover a cutter. Everyone can cover a cutter. You can run up and down the field with somebody, clog up their issue. You can get in their way. When a handler is literally walking around you and taking
Mhm.
steps and getting open like that, it's really hard to mark them. And like I play at like a very low college level, and travels get called. People are petty about that. People call
Mhm.
travels all the time, and it makes it harder as a handler. It makes a
Right.
difference. And so I'm not saying that like that would solve every issue, but it would take away some of their ability to just do whatever they want with the disc.
I mean, I was gonna say, and Jay, I want to hear Jay. I'm trying to set you up for your point. We talked about this right after the New York game, how we want to nerf offenses and how offense is way OP in the UFA. And this again kind of showed that, where it's really hard to limit Carolina in those last 4 minutes. 4 minutes of the game. That's a half, like a third of a quarter. Like that's a long time for a game. Jay, go ahead. So you disagree on the premise of rule changes, but we were talking about rule changes earlier in the season.
So I disagree on the premise of implementing like a backcourt violation or a shot clock violation or anything like that. Because in my mind, like, all right, I am big into esports and I'm also big into like traditional sports. A sport that is new and evolves over time, strategy changes.
Mhm.
If you implement too many changes into the rules, you will not see strategy evolve.
Right.
Cam Brock brought this up on Swing Pass. Look, there were ways Atlanta could have done something different.
Right.
Also, I mean, 53 for 53, that's like that's good. Like you mentioned, that's impressive. Like
Yeah.
statistically speaking, that's a 1 in 10 of them doing that with their turnover rate that game.
Yeah.
Like literally like 9% chance that they do that, I'm pretty sure is what my math worked out to. That's wild.
Right.
And
Right.
all that means is like for 4.5 minutes, the Atlanta Hustle weren't getting a block.
Yeah.
And in my mind, that's on Atlanta. That's not on Carolina. An offense drives the pace of a game. To say that an offense shouldn't drive the pace of a game or to change the way they do that, I think is kind of unfair.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I agree. And again, like I said, it was boring. That doesn't mean they need a rule change. I agree. Like, that's not going to necessarily stop viewership. I mean, it might, but it was impressive. And again, they deserved it. After going 53 for 53, you deserve to win the championship game. Like, and you almost threw a Callahan at the end. Like, Atlanta still almost did take that point. Um, I think I think maybe the bigger conversation almost goes back to what our conversation was earlier this season. That not necessarily we need to stop that from happening again, right? Like, yes, a strategy will form around that. Teams will find a way to nerf that. That's not going to happen every single game. It's not even going to happen every single season, you know? And offenses are still too strong, right? Like we're talking about with traveling, with stall count. Like there's something there that offenses drive the pace of the game, and I like the way you said that. But I don't think defenses even have a say. They don't. They're like almost not even at the table to decide on the pace of the game. If we're gonna kind of keep that analogy, you know what I mean? Like it's an offensive heavy game, and almost too much. And again, I only bring this up because of our brother-in-law Eric, who is at the game, who again is pretty much like one of the target demographics for the UFA. Big sports fan, big football fan, is willing to pay money to go to a game, and is now bored after watching it, and they lost him. And again, we don't have to cater to this one person, but you really need to take that feedback seriously. Like, why is this boring? Because this shouldn't be boring. This is a very fun, exciting sport. But if someone who knows sports thinks it's boring, then we need to talk about it. And he said it was offense. It was way too offensive heavy. There was no strategy on defense. It really was like that one hand block that Minnesota got felt lucky. It was only one of them. All this, and again, like now maybe ranting too much, but bigger conversation about rule changes. So
I mean, I have ideas for rule changes that could exist.
yeah, let's hear a couple. Let's
Okay,
just a couple. We gotta go back to mailbag, but
for starters, um, I think if a disc lands near you, you have to pick it up.
mm,
If you like the close, especially on defense, this drives me up a wall. Anytime I see a team like full on set up with like an offensive set
yeah,
after a turnover, It's like, well, that should be a delay of game. Like that's like the point of having the delay of game, so
Yeah.
that they aren't allowed to do this. Um, that's one. I also think that Kane will agree with me on this. The travel calls, I think the rule needs to be much more explicit. Enough
Mhm.
time to stop your momentum is very vague,
Mhm.
very vague. I mean,
Yeah.
Will Brandt, and I love Will Brandt. He takes 2 steps every time he catches a disc and then pivots, and technically within the rules.
Right.
And like, it
Right.
bothers me. Like he travels, in my opinion, on a
Yeah.
lot of his catches.
Yeah. And
Anyway,
again,
Will
like
Brandt, if you're
I
listening,
don't yeah, like I don't want to keep this conversation going too long. I don't watch basketball too much, but I know they're pretty lenient in basketball with that. And like I know when you shoot and you pass, you can kind of lift your pivot foot. I think technically, I think. And again, I'm kind of speaking out of some ignorance here, but like there's definitely wiggle room for pivot foots and momentum. So I understand why there's some ambiguity in that rule, but right, I still agree that like it needs to be cracked down. There's too much leniency. Like there's got to be a middle ground somewhere. And I think I'm still a proponent of whenever a player picks up a disc, stall count starts, regardless of any defenders in the area. And I think like a 6 second stall count. Not that it's gonna make a huge difference, but I think I'd like to see that implemented. Hey, any last thoughts on rule changes before we get to mailbag?
I don't think we need to add more rules. I think we need to enforce the ones that already exist in the game.
Heck
Call
yeah.
travels. Call travels.
Yeah. And implement reviews
And delay of games.
or challenges.
Yeah, I agree to
Yeah.
that point. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
offenses really just
Like
take their sweet time getting set up.
right. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. We're gonna get to the rest of the mailbag here. Again, thank you everyone for submitting mailbag. We had 4 great responses this week, and I really appreciate everyone who took the time. I will say one person responded before I added a last question. I totally forgot to add who's gonna win the whole championship. So I'm sorry for that person who responded, and then I added that question, and you weren't able to answer that question.
We'll just
So the
assume they
first
said would chill.
Yeah, that's my assumption. First 3 questions are the obvious ones. Who's gonna win? So who's gonna win semifinal one? Winchell or Breeze? We had a 50-50 split, Winchell and Breeze. 2 people said Winchell, 2 people said Breeze. Uh, I don't know. That's fun. I don't have a lot to respond to. If you guys want to add something, go ahead. But otherwise, I'm just gonna keep flying.
I think I'll give my like perspective on the games if we want to give our predictions.
Yeah, yeah. Let's do our predictions. Heck yeah.
I think realistically, this is like 50-50, but I think Minnesota can take this one. I think they can bring something against DC that DC is not ready for.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
I
think
think
the only way Minnesota wins this one is if they bring something DC's not ready for.
I I I think the way the Winchell played the Empire in the first half of the game at TCO makes me want to believe that they can beat the Breeze. If they can play that way for 4 quarters, again, like we said, put together a complete game, regardless of how they play. I mean, yeah, maybe they need to bring a little something extra, but if they just play consistently for 4 quarters, I think they take it. So I'm gonna say Winchell, and I'm a Winchell fan. So
True.
semifinal 2, Flyers versus Cascades. We had 75%. 3 people said Flyers. 1 person said the Seattle Cascades. Um, I have to take the Flyers. I want the Cascades. I want to believe in the Cinderella story, but realistically, I'm gonna go Flyers.
I got the Scades all day, baby.
Heck yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, this one in my mind is going to be like down to the wire.
This is gonna be
Okay.
fun for
This
sure.
this one is going to be I'm honestly I think whoever wins DC Minnesota is gonna win by 2 or 3. I think this is gonna be settled in overtime.
All right.
Um
Who's gonna take it?
I have to say the Flyers.
Yeah.
Cascades have a really good like energy and really good like ability to get into games and not get out of games. But I
Yep.
think Flyers are just too patient.
As we just talked about. Okay, who will be the UFA champion? So we had one for Winchell, one for Cascades, and one for the Breeze.
I'm gonna say the wind chill. Yeah, I think like my prediction of them winning against the Breeze is like their biggest hurdle.
Mhm.
So I think the wind chill will win.
No, I think I, I think it's gonna be between the Winchell and the Flyers. Like I think the championship will be, and I don't know who I've got. Again, as a fan, as a podcaster, I want to say the Winchell. Did I say that? Yeah, Winchell and Flyers, right? Um, I don't know the Flyers well enough. I haven't watched them. I'll just admit, so I can't really say, but I know that they're good. I know that they are still coming off of that 2021 championship. Like that's still in their blood. That's not too far away, and they've got experience. So, I mean, realistically, I'm going to say Flyers, but man, I want the Winchell to win. So, let's go, chill.
I mean, yeah, let's go chill indeed. I think whoever wins DC versus Minnesota is going to win it all. And I said Minnesota is going to win DC versus Minnesota, so I think
Yep.
Minnesota will win it all. I think DC and Minnesota are number one and number two best teams playing right now. The way Minnesota closed out the season, the way Minnesota looked against Madison, the way Minnesota plays when they have their best players on the field, I
Mhm.
think is better than either the Flyers or the Cascades. So I'm confident that Minnesota could beat either of those two teams.
Yeah. All right. So we have for keys to victory for the Winchell. We'll just go through these here. Consistent and relentless defense. Stay chilly on O-line and take the open throws. Come out strong, strong defense, turning breaks into points, minimizing offensive mistakes, and fewer turnovers. Not much
Play
to
good
add, but
frisbee.
yeah, pretty much. You got to be clean. You got to be consistent. I do like the obvious take the open throws. I think that goes to Kane's JT comment about just you don't need a flashy play. You just need the play.
I mean,
Okay,
you
as
could I was gonna
what's
say
up?
you could take those three things and have it literally be like on the UFA's broadcast, like here's Minnesota's three. Like
Yep,
that's
Yeah.
right on to what you would say.
yep.
I mean, it's pretty generic still, but like
I mean,
that's
right.
Again, like I said before we started recording, most keys to the game are just like something every team has to do most
Right.
game. You know what I mean? But
Be good, be consistent, make your
right.
throws. Yeah. Okay, and then so the other additional comments, we only had one other one that wasn't related to rules. Any injury updates that you know of? Again, I alluded to this earlier. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Um, checked with Ben Feldman before the game. He said nothing. They're coming with a full roster. We're only missing Ian McCoskey this weekend due to personal personal life. But again, so we'll see what full roster means. We'll see what full health means. If Tanner Barkis is going to be on there, I would assume that means Sam Berglund will be playing. There's a big tournament, a club tournament this weekend, and Feldman was like, miraculously, no players got hurt, so we are ready to go, which is huge. Which is huge. So that's maybe a great way to kind of end it and segue to our closing. This is going to be this is it. This is it. This is going to be the biggest game of the year, biggest weekend of the year. I think even bigger than last year because, and I hate to say it, the New York Empire are out. This has been such a chaotic season. It's anyone's. It's anyone's championship. All four of these teams could very well make it and go all the way. And the Winchell right there, they're coming with a full strength roster. They're going out to Salt Lake City with some ice in their veins. And they're ready to go.
I mean, yeah,
Uh,
this is the season where New York lost, Detroit won, and now Minnesota is gonna take it all in Salt Lake against Seattle.
all right. Yeah, why not? Why not? You know, anyone can
This
believe.
is the year for it, baby.
Real quick, I want to plug Jay's article. Jay did a great breakdown of the DC Breeze. If you're like me and unfamiliar with most out of division teams, I highly recommend going to read that. It gives you great like who's who, what is their style of play, what do the Winchell need to do to attack them and win this game. Love it. Great job, Jay. Kane also contributed to it a little bit, so shout out Kane. um, I also want to give a shout out to Pocket Square Cocktails. They are hosting a watch party on Friday night. They're a New Hope. We've been there. They're great. You can grab some food, grab great drinks, scoobers, like the drink. They have a scuba drink, and be with other Winchell fans who can't make it out to Salt Lake. That'll be a great atmosphere. And finally, shout out to the R1P1 network, Ziggy and Tony doing great work all season long. They're wrapping up their second season with us. So as much work as we're putting in, they're doing so much work as well in the backgrounds with our Zoom background, podcast thumbnails, everything. They've been a huge support. So thank you to the R1P1 crew. And of course,
we look
go ahead.
cute this year.
I
Our
mean,
branding is like kind of cute.
they crushed it with our new look and our production value. So we love them. Finally, just again, not to get too sentimental, it's our second to last episode of the season, I think. So we really want to thank our audience, our fans. Again, we joke about, the 3 fans and 2 of them are our parents or whatever, but like we don't have a huge audience, but we really do appreciate everyone who is in our audience and everyone who is on Instagram following us, who do, everyone's sitting on the fence or coming up to us at games saying hi, participating in our giveaways. Like, again, I think we said this on last podcast. Like, we do this for you guys. We don't really know. We're not the experts on the team, but we just have this passion, and we're trying to create this community and share this passion that we know you also have. So thanks for coming along with us. Thanks for interacting, for doing our mailbag, all that stuff. We literally wouldn't do this without you guys. Like, you are why we do it. So thank you to the fans. I'm shedding a tear here, but don't get too sad because we do have one more episode. It's going to be recapping championship weekend, and probably next week, maybe 2 weeks. I guess we'll see how we're feeling, but hopefully we'll be recapping a Winchell championship. But in the meantime, stay chilly, pitch out. Let's go Winchell.
Stay chilly.
Ciao.